And our government staff, Ben, and all of our staff that support tirelessly in so many projects. But first of all, Russell, it's been an honor. This is work we can do this. We work side by side. And I can tell you this, the town and the county have worked so good together. We've got a full accomplished, and we have to do it. We don't have to cross with each other anyway. We just have to work closely. And if it wasn't that, it just worked flawlessly. Sheriff Yancey, thank you. Thank you for everything you do, everything you have done. What you're continuing to do is amazing. You and your staff, deputies, are so resilient, resourceful, and appreciative. Christy, with the EMS and all your folks, all the many hours you all put in, and how you tirelessly sacrifice so much. So you just please tell your staff, please tell your staff, what a great job you've all done, and how much I appreciate it. Chris, thanks for stepping on that. Appreciate it. David Davis and our all the things that's going on with agriculture and stuff. His plate has been so full. David, thank you for what you've done. Thank you. We appreciate it. Got our FEMA rep sitting up here. Thank you, sir, for being here. We'll talk about a little bit more about you later. But most of all, I want to say thank you to our most valuable citizens. There are hundreds of ordinary folks out there that during this disaster have become extraordinary. And if you're one of those people that have volunteered your time and have made things better for your neighbors, I want to say thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. I got to work with so many of them during the onset of this storm, and even now. And I'm telling you, the most wonderful people in the world are back in Yancey County, and it's been proven time and time again. Our greatest strength and our resources are people. Because of them and because of you, we are Yancey Strong. And I want to just say thank you to everybody that's participated. Wow, what a blessed place that we live in. With all that being said, I want to get into why we're here, the information and the stuff that we need to go over. Now, we're certainly in a long-term, and I do want to emphasize a long-term recovery process, which consists of a partnership with state and federal agencies. And with that being said, the town of Burnsville and the county of Yancey have certain responsibilities and protocol that we cannot deviate from, that we've had to address with these state and federal agencies in order to be able to financially recover. In a disaster of this measure and magnitude, the recovery time typically, from what we have been told, is 5 to 7 years for full recovery. Now that includes roads, infrastructure, finances, and housing. And that is a harsh reality. The dynamics of working with state and federal partners is sometimes perplexing, but very necessary. And the journey can be frustrating along the way, but we have to remain focused, we have to remain patient, and we have to be engaged and understand our role of being proactive of the needs and not reactive of the results. In other words, we are in constant contact and communication with all agencies, making sure of our effective role in the process and making sure our county and our town doesn't get lost in the broad scope of this multi-county and multi-state disaster. I can assure you that we have been involved in decision-making conversations at both the state and federal level. State and federal reps have been here to Yancey County, many times engaged with constructive dialogue. We have traveled several times to different places and been engaged in the understanding and suggestive input of the recovery efforts. We have expressed our local needs and our concerns and have learned from colleagues of other counties of their trials and their errors. Unfortunately, there is a huge learning curve for all of us in this disaster. There are no experts up here on this panel. There are none. And we certainly do not pretend to know or have all or any of the answers. But we are diligently searching for them as well as solutions. With that being said, I would hope that there would be a bit of understanding and compassion to the enormous task that we have been given to deal with. We have had the pleasure of working with several emergency management professionals who have been very beneficial to our recovery efforts. But they have all said that at some point in time in our conversations and our time working with them, that this is the most unique disaster that they have ever deployed on, and it doesn't fit the standard operating procedures in many respects. So in many ways, this is a very challenging, uncharted situation and circumstance. What we have found through this is that there are very few situations and circumstances that duplicate. Thus, challenges to be created, it's challenged us to be creative in the way that we have handled each and every need. Even within our county, each community faces somewhat different needs in many aspects of this recovery. So it's difficult to just reciprocate services from one community to the next, and that slows the process down. Please know and realize and understand the dire need, and that we realize and understand the dire need that everyone is facing. All has lost some, and some have lost all. That is constantly on my mind. One of those things that keeps me up at night. And I want you to know that we are trying to accommodate every single situation, no matter how widespread or how dire it is. And to everyone, their situation is the most vital, and we all need to remember that. Their situation is the most important to them. And that's what we all need to understand. And I'm saying that for a reason, because I think sometimes we lose focus that our neighbors are suffering and hurting. And maybe not in every situation as much as we are, but they need compassion, and they need a little bit of respect as well. So we need to remember that. That is what has made us so resilient and responsive and strong together, because we have worked with one another. And from a leadership position, we will strive to continue every effort that we have to make every resource available to every single citizen. Now, you need to understand that there are certain personal responsibilities that every citizen needs to participate in. Please don't just sit back and expect it to be done completely by your government at any level. There are critical criterial needs that have to be met and done by each citizen to keep the process rolling. So I would urge everybody, ask questions. Find out what you can do to expedite the recovery process for your situation. That's what we're doing here tonight. As your representatives, let us know what we are doing collectively on your behalf of our scope of responsibilities, and to assure you that we are being diligent in our efforts to a safe and speedy recovery. I realize by your presence here tonight that you obviously are concerned, and that's the purpose of this meeting, to connect you with updates and answers and the resources that can facilitate your concerns. With that being said, I would like to give some info and updates that may answer a lot of your questions and concerns. At the end, it's already been said, at the end of this each presentation, each presenter will update and address questions that have been submitted that best fits our wheelhouse, what we're used to. Also, there are tables set up outside in the commons area with reps from various agencies and organizations to help out with specific questions and needs. So take advantage of these services while they're here. They are here for your benefit. So first, we get up with some updates here, and I want to call on a couple of people because they are here to help out with some of these updates. So first, Governor Stein, as he went in December, he has signed in some executive orders that have lightened some regulatory agency restrictive measures to allow affected counties to expedite recovery efforts. And I just want to say publicly how I thank the governor for what he saw, the need that was there. He acted on it, and he has responded, and it has helped us tremendously. So I would like to say thank you to him and the legislature for their help and their understanding. Next, a couple of the questions in my address here with this has been concerned about taxes and how that, I think one of the very first questions, since so many properties are now worth less. I
They're not worthless, but they are worth less. We understand that. We get it. So I will start with this in our conversation that I've had many times with our tax administrator, Mr. Daddy McIntosh, that we have been very engaged with the Department of Revenue, understanding that there are statutory regulations to the tax office and what the commissioners can and cannot do. We're very limited to that, and that's very direct to the state. So we cannot just wave a magic wand and let these things go away, but there is a process. So in January, starting in January the 1st, all the way to May the 1st, there's an opportunity to appeal for taxes and your property's value. That is being done right now and will continue to be until the Board of Equalization is open and convened. So make sure that right now you take the opportunity, if you've been affected by this storm, to appeal. Appeal. That's the process, that's what we have to do, and that's the way we're going to make sure that we get it done. Okay. Danny and I have had several conversations, and we understand that another thing that keeps me up at night and thinking about is the loss that we're going to incur because the value is being diminished. We understand that. We know that. Right now, what we are looking at, and this is just a total estimate, we've not run full numbers, and we won't know exactly until all the appeals are finished, but we're looking at a deficit of $100 to $150 million off our after-one taxes, which means there's going to be a shortfall approximately, that's approximate number, which means there could be a shortfall as much but not limited to $5 million in our budget. And that's tremendous, that's huge. We're hoping that it's nowhere near that, but that's what we're expecting. So there's a huge challenge there that we're going to have to overcome. Now, one of the hot topics, another thing that we see on social media all the time, and a lot of things that we see in the questions that I get, no matter where I go, what I'm doing, I'm going to the grocery store, going to the gas station, it doesn't matter. Trash. Trash, trash, trash. My soul is the trash. We're a bunch of trashy people, I can tell you that. I had no idea that we were trashy, but we are trashy. And I've said this in our community meeting and on the updated videos that we give. But to put things in perspective and get some understanding about where we are and what's going on with the trash. Pre-Helene, we were servicing about 80 to 85 tons of trash daily. We are now at our high water mark, so to speak. No money. But at our high mark, we are processing sometimes just in Yancey County over 200 tons of trash. And that's with limited hours and limited availability. So what that has done is that has put a huge strain on our transfer station of being able to get the trash that we're trying to process to another location. It's impossible to do. It's just impossible to do. With that being said, we have secured and signed a contract with another company called Endurance that is going to come and help try to relieve some of the pressure off our current trash hauler, for lack of better terms. So they're going to come and help try to clean up our transfer station. But what a lot of people don't understand is our trash in our transfer station is very heavily regulated by the state. We get audited and we get inspected periodically on that. Well, right now, there's absolutely no possible way that we can pass an inspection. Because if anybody's been up there and seen in our transfer station that must remain clean daily, it's overflowing and it's past its capacity. Now, so far, the state has been very lax on allowing us to try to get through this, but those their grace is going to quit at some point. So we have tried different things, and we're currently in the process of looking at different hours. We're trying to juggle this as much as we can. But what I would ask is please be patient. We're currently in the process right now with a local contractor of rebuilding the B-Log facility and the Pensacola facility. That will be done. V-Log will be first because they have absolutely nothing there but open top roll-offs. Next will be Pensacola. We're going to be housing the workers, everything. We don't even have workers at V-Log. But right now we have V-Log, Riverside East, Yancey, Green Mountain, Pensacola South, Tug, with limited hours. I know sometimes we have to be creative now with this trash program, this trash problem that we have about when you can have access to it. So we're going to try to extend some hours here and there and play with those where everybody will have a little bit better access. Okay? Next, the next three things, which are going to be debris. One of the big hot topics, I know it's all over social media. I don't have social media, but I hear it all the time. We have secured a contract with SDR. I'm going to call him up, so sir, if you would be coming. This is Philip Jennings. He's the project manager for SDR. And the one thing and the reason that we went with SDR is because they do utilize our local contractors. And that was huge to be able to keep our local contractors busy. And we really appreciate them being able to work with them. And I don't want to muddy the water for him because he's going to give you an update on that because he knows a lot more about it than I do. But there is a north side of 19 and there's a south side of 19. There's a contractor that secured the north side of the work and gathered debris. There's a contractor that has contracted to get the south side. And people need to be patient and understand that they can't be everywhere at all times. They're not Dollar General, nor are they Santa Claus. So they can only work in certain areas, and that's a whole lot of area for just a couple of contractors to work through. They are coming. So, Philip, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you, and if you will just get up here.
Glad to, Jeff. Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Jennings. As Jeff said, I'm with Southern Disaster Recovery. We are working here in Yancey County, started October 27th. To date, we have picked up about 75,000 cubic yards of debris. As Jeff mentioned, we have as much as we can. We utilize local crews. About 80% of our crews right now are local Yancey County citizens, Yancey County companies. We do have some out-of-state equipment and crews that are specifically brought in because they have specialized equipment. But again, as we continue to grow, we are going to reach out locally. The disaster happened here, we're going to fix it here, but we're going to fix it with as much as possible. A few things. First of all, let me say this. SDR will have a table in the lobby. I will be glad to take specific questions. I want to get your name, I want to get your number, I know what your problem is. If you don't have an answer for you tonight, I will get back with you with an answer. We will make sure that you may not be happy with the answer, but you're going to get satisfied. We do have on the right-of-way project that we're currently working a few questions that I've had along the way that I want to share with this group. What we can pick up, what we can't pick up, what lays ahead for the community, what lays ahead for the debris recovery efforts. First of all, we are working on what we refer to as the right-of-way project. We are picking up two types of debris. One is vegetative, that's trees, bushes, any brush, any sort of vegetation that would result of a lean, we're going to be picking up that debris. Right now, that is about 75% of what we're seeing in the right-of-way. The river is the lake project construction and demolition. That's going to be your debris that comes out of houses and sheds. The different debris that's going to come either demoing houses, renovating houses, anything that comes out of that construction facet is gonna qualify as the CND debris. We would ask, as you start pushing this debris to the right of way, because the right of way, let me define it, is 25 feet off the center line from any state or county maintained road. On these roads, we're going to be making 3 passes. On private roads, we can make 1 pass. We're far enough along in the right of way project with 3 passes. We're going to be incorporating private roads into our schedule moving forward. So on any day, we've got anywhere from 15 to 25 crews out in the county moving through the right of way, picking up your debris. If we have not gotten to you yet, I'd like to speak with you at the table, make sure that we have not missed you. If we have, we'll give you a second pass. The chances are we've not gotten to you really yet. I can give you an idea of when that will happen. So I do want to speak with you in the lobby. We will be bringing on a couple of other projects. Debris release, one is a lot of private property, debris release project. Several of you in here have signed up for that already. We will have representatives from the county's third-party independent monitoring firm, the RETEC, who will be out there. We'll be glad to answer questions. Share with you the days and hours that they are available at FEMA's Disaster Recovery Center. And you know what you need to bring in if you have property in a dwelling that needs to be cleaned up. So that will be our second debris project. Bringing on the The third one will be the waterway. So most of the debris is in this county, in the waterway. We're working with FEMA. We're working with the county. We're putting together our proposal for what is going to qualify to come out of the river. We've got submitted, put together the package, submitted in, ready to push it along in order. Again, right away, start in our property, coming up rather quickly. We're signing people up for that. And then the waterway. And that will work in conjunction a lot with the river for private property. We're all working 7 days a week. We do have 5 temporary debris management sites around the county. Spoken with several of you wanting to bring in your own debris. Unfortunately, because the way this project is being funded, we cannot allow public access to the CDMS temporary debris management site. If you have debris qualified, I certainly want to get it. Whether it is on the right-of-way path or the private property debris removal. But again, I'm going to have a table in the lobby. Our team will be there. We'll answer your questions. You want your name and number. I'll give you my name and number, and we will work through this together. I hate the reason that I'm here. I've done this type of work for 30 years. As Jeff mentioned it earlier, this is unique. It's groundbreaking. It's a project and a disaster that is unprecedented, not only in this part of the country, or this part of the country, but the country. Again, I work coast to coast with everything like this. And Philip Jennings, I'll be in the lobby. I look forward to working with you. Please reach out with your questions.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. And that's the reason we're having these meetings, so we can put these resources and put a face with it, and you can get hands-on information directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And that's why we're doing this. And as a matter of fact, some of the things that Philip's touched on is answered 2 or 3 of these questions that we need to respond to, and I'll highlight them. But anyway, next is I'll briefly give some information about FEMA, because I definitely don't want to muddy the water. FEMA has a huge representation here tonight, and I want to say thank you to the FEMA representation that's here. Thank you for all that y'all have done. And I realize that y'all have a stigma, and sometimes it's not a good thing, but I want to say this about what my interaction through the county and what we have been partnered with and working with through this federal agency, that since week 1, We have had boots on the ground in the public assistance, not the individual assistance or the private assistance, but the public assistance. We have had a representation working side by side with us since week one. Been boots on the ground, and he's been very engaged. Every single one of them. I think we've had 3, maybe 4, but they have been very engaged. They have led us along in a lot of the different things as far as the municipality and the county government is concerned. They've been very engaged, and they've been very helpful. So I appreciate what they have done. I'm not going to speak a whole lot about the different things that they offer because there's so many of them here. You're going to have the opportunity to speak with them personally, and they can answer some of the questions that you have. But I do want to say that I have spoken with a few people here and there along the way in the private individual assistance, and they might have got a denial at first. But they have appealed. They got a denial, but they appealed again, and they got some response. Sometimes they've appealed 3 and 4 times. So my suggestion, and my thing from experience from those that I've talked to, I have not had experience with the private part, but I can tell you the public's been great, but so I can't speak pro or con to that. But I can tell you this, appeal. Okay? Until you can get some satisfaction. Now, we currently have mobile units on South Toll and Burnsville, Michael, FEMA sponsored housing, and going to continue to work with that. I think we approximately have about 15 units now that are, if they're not already moved in, they will be. If they're not already by the end of this week or end of next week for sure. So that is boots on the ground. That's been one of those things that has been, one of the bits on social media. But they are here, and they have worked with us extensively and very well. All right. Moving on, I want to touch on one thing real quick. The money myth that has been going around. It seems that we have received a magical container of money. That has been around everywhere. That the county has received this unlimited funds of money. You're not using it correctly, and what are you doing with it, and all this and all that. And the town's got it too. I heard from one particular fellow that first this week that the town's got how much money y'all got? But it's almost as much as we got. But anyway, which we didn't. But those particular things are not true. We supposedly have got it from the feds and or the state, but our reimbursement process is based on a project and a need by need disbursement assessment. I mean, we can't say, hey, Mr. Federal Governor Man, we need $250 million, and they just write us a check. Everything that we do is accounted for, and it's done project by project, need by need. We do not have any money. I'm going to talk about that in one of the questions that I'm going to address here in just a second. But folks, there's no magical pot of money that us or the town has, nor have been given, nor will be given. All of that is definitely not true. Next, real quick, talk about private roads and bridges. From my understanding, over 6,000 applicants have been applied for so far with FEMA. And I want to say this, a lot of people say that nothing's being done about it. Listen to this. 70%, 73% of those that have been applied for has had some type of addressed content to it, to at least a temporary status of full recovery. So I think that's an amazing thing. A lot of times you don't hear the positive, you just hear the negative. And I realize that every situation's not been fixed yet. Obviously, there's 27% that's not. But things are being done. Now, to speak more about the roads and bridges, I would like to introduce you to our county planner, Mr. Chris Sigmund, who's been working very diligently, day by day, on a citizen-by-citizen basis, talking about and understanding what it is. So, Chris, I'd like to turn the mic over to you, and you can give some update about what's going on.
All right, can you hear me? All right. If it gets too soft, let me know. If you think about the scale and scope of the devastation that hit Yancey County and our population, we're about 19,000 people. And I say this a lot, and I'm not the only one that says it. People who work in multiple counties have said this as well. But per capita, we were hit the hardest. right? So if you look at the devastation multiplied times the number of people we have, we're hit harder than anyone else per person. If we were doing this meeting in Baltimore County, the number of local government officials that would be sitting up here would be equal to what's sitting out there. We are a very small local government, so we're trying to funnel the recovery of the devastation through a small local government, and I'm very impressed with the talent of the people who are up there. I'm proud to be a part of this group, and they're working very hard for you. So just know that we got hit hard, and we're very small, and these people are doing a great job. I also want to thank our community leaders. As I have gone out and to the communities, I don't know everyone. I don't know quite often if someone's got health issues. I don't know if it's a second home or a primary residence. And many community leaders have stepped up and helped me, and that's a force multiplier, and I'm very grateful. And that story is played out from Cattail Creek to CeeLo around the community, and I couldn't do what I'm doing without you, so thank you very much for that. Speed in recovery is a function of three things. It's people, and that's the people around you that are doing the recovery work. It's processes, and it's funding. So when you think about the processes as it relates to roads and bridges, there's a process we have to go through to get funded. As Jeff said, we didn't get a magic bucket of money. We have to get each project funded through FEMA so we can be reimbursed to do it. And there's a process for rebuilding, and you want that process to take place. What we witnessed with our bridges in particular was what I call the damming effect. A bridge builds up with debris, the force builds, the bridge collapses, that debris goes downstream, it hits the next bridge, and the next bridge, and the next bridge. So as we rebuild, you want to do it right. You want to do it because the bridges in that river chain are only as strong as the weakest link. And I know it's a slow process, but the environmental studies that tell us the strengths of the river, the structural engineering that tells us the strengths of the bridge to handle the flow of the river, and the no-rise certifications, which tell us that the object of the bridge in the river is not going to cause flooding up or downstream. We need that, right? And I hate it's a slow process, but it's a necessary process. In our local portal that April helped set up on the county website where people self-reported, originally, early on, we didn't have access to FEMA data. We didn't know who had applied for what. So we created our own portal, and you got self-reported that your road or bridge or culvert was out. And that's the list that we used to go out and inspect and try to help and support you. There were 318 reports or submissions on that portal. In average so far, there's about 4 households per bridge or road. We average 2.7 people per household. So that means there's 3,434 people, or 18% of our county population, that's affected by roads and bridges and that are cut off in some way, right? So there's a lot of you. There's one of me. I'm an army of one, and I'm working hard for you. And if I haven't gotten to you yet, just know that it's not because of effort, right? I prioritize based on number of people, elderly, and people with serious health issues. Okay, so we've got people in the county got stage 4 cancer, no bridge, trying to get to Asheville every day for treatments, and that's a priority for us. Of the 318, I've been able to go through 155 of them. Of the 155, 57 were Cattail Creek. So it's very Cattail Creek centric in that first group. That means I've got 163 to go. As bridges or roads enter the system, my ability to go out and add more to the pile slows down a bit because the ones that are in the system have to be program managed, have to be designed, have to be engineered. Admissions, submissions, and applications to FEMA have to happen. So I slow as I go forward because I'm program managing the ones that are already in the system. But we will continue to go through these along that priority list, and you will continue to add to that list. There are some significant events that are happening around this. We're in a little bit of a transition period with some shifting sand associated with roads and bridges in the state of North Carolina. Jeff alluded to the executive order. Number 2 is the order the governor signed on the 2nd of January that affects roads and bridges. It gives the funding responsibility to the Division of Disaster Relief. It also spells out that the state will take over the repairs and replacement of roads and bridges, and they'll use DOT contractors to do that. So instead of me going out and finding local contractors and getting quotes, I'm going to get more horsepower from the state to help with this. And that's a good thing. That's a force multiplier. I will say that Derwin Jones, who's the Director and General Counsel for the North Carolina Division of Disaster Recovery, was here last week. He brought Kristen Boyle with him. She will be our representative locally here to support us with roads and bridges. She's out of the Waynesville office. I got to take Derwin around. He gets it. He understands some of the things that are slowing speed in the system, and he reported back to the governor's office. He has submitted a budget. He did it today to be voted on by the General Assembly next Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and he's asking for $45 million in state recovery funding to go after roads and bridges in western North Carolina that the state can fund directly. So if that passes, that's a good thing for us. That helps bypass a lot of what I have to do with FEMA people, great people, but that'll give us an express lane. And so that's a really good thing, and we got to hope that passes. So keep an ear out for that. That's the high level stuff. Jeff, and I'll get to the questions, I guess, when we go down the panel. Okay?
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Very informative, and again, that's why we're here. Make sure everybody understands there is a process, and we have to follow these protocols, being part of the government and the town and municipalities, because without that, we get no reimbursement. So, with that being said, I will turn to some of the questions. I'll address some of these real quick and go over them and then move on. The very first question, since lien, actually it's a statement, since lien, so many properties are now worthless. We understand that, we know it. Not sure what the question would be, but there is a process that's engaged with the state. There is the next question, and I think that have already been answered, and I want to personally answer part of it, but why does Mitchell County have organized cleanup efforts but Yancey does not? Well, I think it's very apparent, very obvious that we signed a contract with SDR, week 2, week 3. So that's been going on for several months now. So we are just as organized with our cleanup effort as Mitchell County. And if I'm not mistaken, Philip, I think you all do Mitchell County as well. It says here, Green Mountain, especially along the toe, is untouched from a debris and garbage standpoint as of 1/5/2025. Now, I will take exception to that because I used that for about 4 weeks. I've had to go back to work. I worked with the county and for the county as far as full-time through this disaster for the first 3 months. But for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've had to go back because our bank account was dwindling fast. So I had to go back and try to make a little money. But I got a job in Beulah, so I was traveling that road twice a day, every day, 5 days a week for the last 4 or 5 weeks, or for the last 4 weeks. And I had to sit in traffic, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 different times due to the fact that there were people there on the tow, on 197, picking up roadside debris. So there again, that will debunk that particular question. So it's definitely being done. To what extent, the next question is, to what extent is the county, state, and federal government going to participate in bringing back the community to where it was before the storm? In my very first opening statement, I said, and I will say again, I reiterate, this is a long-term recovery. I think it's apparent that what's going on here the efforts to get everybody together, that there's a lot going on from both the state, federal, and the county to be able to recover our folks back to normal as fast as possible. So I don't have any other way to answer that. This next question is, how much funding has Yancey County received from state and federal governments for the recovery efforts, and how is the county dispersing and using these funds? For my notes here, as I got with Brandy, our finance officer, and so far we have received $3.168 million, $3.168 million, and that was in lieu of, in way of the expedited funds that were given to every county by the state. And that was for debris removal. Now, obviously we've not spent that so far. So far in debris removal, we've spent $574,463.38. And we have spent so far, including all of our overtime, everything expense related to the Helene recovery, $1,791,987.28. Every single thing that we have done has been on a case-by-case, need-by-need basis. Everything is documented. So again, there's not a magic pot of money out there that we can just dip in and throw at stuff. We were given 3.1 for debris removal. So far, we've spent a little over $500,000 of that, and we have, of our own county funds, 1.7. So that would answer that question. Next question: why is the Army Corps of Engineers here working on bridges and helping rebuild? We had a choice, and I will say that I would like to thank the National Guard and the Army and the Army Corps and their engineers that were here for approximately 3 months, and the work that they've done, the help that they were quickly putting in all the culverts and helping get cleared out, mudded out, different things that they've done. They helped us in our efforts with our distribution from our points of distribution in 3 different places. I mean, they were very active in what they've done. But the way that the Guard works, understanding how they work, is that they can't just be here indefinitely. They have, and they work on a need basis. So once their job description and once their need has started diminishing, they pulled out because there wasn't a need. We were facilitating the need with our contractors and the people that we needed to keep busy making money. So that's the reason they are not here at this particular time. We opted to go with SBR instead of the Army Corps so we can work our local folk. And that's the main reason for that. All right, next question. There's 2 here. I'll kind of answer these together. Some of us met with FEMA disaster mitigation at Fridge, who told us that the state is allocating funds for disaster relief in each affected county. County commissioners need to formally accept these funds and are going to do that, and how will you use them? The next question, the very next question was, we spoke with FEMA disaster mitigation and North Carolina Recovery today. At the office at Fridge in Burnsville, we learned that the Yancey County Commissioners have a say in how these recovery funds are allocated. Please explain how you are going to allocate and distribute these funds, and if you will be working with these agencies to help our constituents recover from this disaster. I think we've already answered that question, but yes, we're not going to turn these funds down, but we can't just ask for an amount of money. We have to make sure that we have spent that money or have a project earmarked and designated for that money before we can get it. Next question. Okay, now I'll address that. Says here, does the county plan to help small businesses stay open or get back on their feet? What we have been doing, as far as that, we don't have any grant money that we can get locally. We have been advertising, pushing to make sure that people, let the public know, the outside world know that we are open for business. Make sure that people come in and they patronize our local businesses. I do know this, when we went to Morganton with that we had the federals, the state, the governor was there, Governor Roy Cooper at that time was there. We had Tom Tillis was there. There were many folks that were there. And the governor had promised that he would have some grant funding out for small businesses that are affected in all of the counties. And I think, last I heard about that a week or two ago, that that's fixing to be deployed. I have no idea into what content or what measure, but I know it's going to be a grant application process. So keep your eyes and your ears open for those particular monetary needs. So they're coming. Okay, and I take this personally as well. Here's a question: why has no county commissioner or county manager been visible in Egypt Township area? Shame. I know for a fact on 2 occasions that you and I were down there personally. I know on 2 occasions that Commissioner Norton, who is here, was down there on a couple occasions. I know that I worked with Stanley Holloway from that particular area on 2 different occasions. So that's 6. I know that I was with Byron Wakefield, which is part of our incident management team, on 2 different occasions, and went down there by myself to direct one of the trucks that we had gotten the containers, what are they called? Yeah, the Connex containers. We had those delivered, and I was down there with the truck driver showing him where to go, new driver. Had constant relationship and conversations with Todd Robinson, the pastor of Big Creek Church, and we were facilitating his needs as we could, when we could. Also, Mr. Miller, who's a deacon of the church, those community leaders that we spoke to, talked to, interacted to, and with, and was there on a regular basis. So I hope that answers your question. As a matter of fact, if you want another witness, my wife and I were down there one day. I took her because I had to deliver some stuff. We had to go into Tennessee and get some stuff to come back across. So anyway, there you go. And I want to say this. Just because you don't see somebody working in your community, just because you don't see a commissioner or somebody that you think has to be everywhere at all times, just because you don't see them, don't think that they're not working somewhere, because they are. And I, again, would like to thank everybody for coming out and appreciate your cooperation with this meeting. And I hope that there's been some light shed so far, and that you'll get some more benefits from this as the night goes on. So next, I'll introduce Ms. Lynn Austin, our county manager.
Thank you so much. I'm really humbled. This event's really, if we weren't humbled already, we sure are humbled now. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And I think that's a sentiment right on down the line here of just the cooperation and coming together. I want to clear up a few little things. I won't ramble on too much and get into the nitty-gritty of the questions.
What's your statement?
No. And make sure we try to get you guys the information that you need. And I hope that, we have about 19,000 people in the county, and we have maybe 150 or so here tonight. So please tell your neighbors, share it on your Facebook pages. Go to April keeps their Facebook page really up to date with PPDR information. That'll be on there if it's not already. And how to sign up, what hours the DRC is, just really good information. So if you're not on Facebook, check our website out. We'll try to keep that updated as well. Or feel free to call our office. So,
Yancey County NC.
Yep, YanceyCountyNC.gov is our webpage. Our office phone number is on there as well. It's 682-3971. If we can't get you what we need or what you need, we'll be glad to get you down to the bridge program or wherever, and we'll be glad to make sure that you get your questions answered. If we don't know them, we'll try to get them answered on up the chain and get back to you. So our Facebook page is Yancey County. Correct me, April. We've only started this since Helene, the Yancey County government. If you'll look that up, you'll see our county seal. And that's the most up-to-date that in our website, so please stay tuned to that. I was racking my brain on where maybe that pot of money came from. Morgan is here, who is our clerk to the board. We were one of the lucky ones, and just the good Lord's timing, I guess. On CDBG housing, we had picked up that program, and when I say we, the county, but Morgan has spearheaded that, so thank you, Morgan. And picked up that program, and we were ready to go with the application in October. Of course, the flood hit, but I had somebody ring my phone from CDBG, and we had put in for roughly around $900,000 to do some replacement homes, of all things. And so not just repairs, that's through Wayne, but replacement homes. And they said, could you use more money? I said, before Helene, I would have said, I think we've got enough to start out on. That's probably all the applications we can do this year. We'll get better at it next year. After Helene, I said we could use quadruple that. We got $4 million. $4 million to replace homes. Now, the CDBG program is a grant program. It's a non-match program for the county. So that means for you, me, and everybody else up here. You do have to meet some criteria for those homes, and that information, I believe, is on our Facebook page, on our website. And please call at 682-3971. Morgan's in her office, and ask for Morgan West. She will make sure that you get that information that you need, and she'll be glad to sit down with you. Morgan, remind me of the deadline on that. February 28th, so you have another roughly 5-6 weeks, so be sure and inquire about that, because we do want to get all that money spent. We don't want to return any, we want to help our folks. So if that's the golden nugget that dropped to full of money, then that's what it just happened to be, that we were at the right place and right time with the application, and when the disaster hit, they called and asked us. And we were one of the only counties that got that kind of money. The next county down, I was talking to some folks today and talking with Morgan, and I can't remember the county exactly. I want to say Catawba, but I don't think that's right. It was $1.5 million. So we got quadruple, or at least 3 times more than what a lot of counties did. So we're thankful for that. Another thing is, on the expedited funds that we talked about through the projects that Jeff was talking about, those funds are, what happens is SDR gives us a rate that, hey, we think we got this much debris, we flew the Cane River with a drone, and we estimated this cubic yardage, and gives us a good estimate. We send that up to state, and they'll supply us half. So when we got the $3.1 million and some odd dollars after that was only half of what the county was going to have to pay. The rest of it will come on reimbursement. Being a small county, we couldn't afford a $6,000, $6.2 million, we could afford $6,000, but $6.2 million straight out of our budget, that we had already passed the budget back in June 30, 2024, not knowing this was going to happen, to set any funds aside. So, do we have this disaster in our budget? Absolutely not. Do we have a rainy day fund called our savings? We do. We try to keep enough that we could run a certain amount of months. If we got absolutely no funding in, period, the state government at LGC, which is a local government commission, makes us keep a certain percentage in there, around 8 or 10% is what they like to see. That would do us maybe 3 months. I mean, and we're at 20, and Randy may be here, we're at 22% roughly. So we could, that's with savings from 15 years ago, with the last 10 years for sure, that we have been inching toward. So it's not something that we just have a ton of money out back that we'll go to the bank and fill all these needs. We wish we could, but we can't. So with that $1.7 that's come out of our coffers, if you will, already this year, that puts us in the strength. I mean, that's going to have to come out of our, if we will get it reimbursed, hopefully through FEMA, but that has to come out of our local budget that we wasn't prepared for this year. It would have to come out of savings. So, and hopefully before the year end, maybe FEMA, we can get that reimbursed and it won't make their audit so crazy, but I'm afraid it's going to be anyway. So that's kind of how that works, it's just a 50-50 thing, so even though we got $3 million, it's not for anything more than fronting us the money to pay SDR. The other choice was the Army Corps. Army Corps of Engineers on the waterway and 50DR, which is that private property debris removal. We like sticking with SDR, we have a good relationship. We already have those TDM, this is alphabet soup tonight, those temporary debris management sites out there. It was already open accepting debris. So the debris that we were talking about, or Commissioner Whitson was talking about at our landfill, that is just our white goods, guys. That is just coming from the centers or people that's hauling it in there.